do I look for, you know what I mean? So that was all kind of a new learning process for me, which I kind of enjoyed along the way.
So why jump into the BMW and why the E46?
I had always been a huge fan of the M3 when it came out, even the E30 and the E36. But like, you know, I got into Hondas around the late 90s, so the E36 M3 was already out. And it was already like, damn, I think it's pretty cool. And then in, you know, 2000, this one came out, and I had my hatchback. I was pretty deep into Hondas back then, and this car came out, and I was like, man, that's the one. You know, Laguna Seca blue or red, it just popped. You know what I mean? And it was always kind of that pipe dream. Oh, maybe one day I'll get one. Maybe one day I'll get one. You know, and I got an E36 M3. Had it for not very long. I crashed it.
Okay.
Got another one. Didn't like it. Got rid of it. Got another one, and it wasn't this one. You know what I mean? I had a buddy who had an E46 M3, and I drove it, and it felt so much more like a Honda. You know, I was used to like B18C motors that rev to 8,000 RPM. You know what I mean? A nice linear power. You know what I mean? All the way to 8,000. And the E36 didn't really have that. You know, it revved to like 7,000, 75, and it had tons of torque, and then it just kind of dropped off. You know. But this one, it goes all the way to 8. It made me feel like a Honda, you know what I mean, when I drove it. So that's kind of why I like this one so much. My buddy Brandon had one back in around 2003, and ever since then I drove his. I was like, I gotta get one. I gotta get one day.
The bug started.
Yeah. So it took me a few years. I bought this in 2012. I've had it for 8 years now.
Wow. So then walk me back to 2012. What was your vision for it?
I knew I wanted to do suspension and wheels. You know, at the time I was working at iBox, so I knew, okay, coilovers, wheels, maybe brakes, just something to have fun with, you know. I had my EG that I was tracking a lot, and that was the track car, so the idea was just to have a nice daily. And I was tracking the EG a lot, more and more, and I kind of like got to a point to where like, okay, it's the B series EG, and I'm not gonna go K series, I'm not gonna go full crazy wide body or crazy aero, but I want to develop more as a driver. So I started kind of tinkering with this thing a little bit on the track. Like I would take it out to open test days, whatever, just to see what it would do. And it was running close to the same lap times as my Civic, on like street tires and full interior. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, you know what? If I could really learn how to drive this thing, I mean, it could be a fun process to like really learn wheel-wheel drive and develop that more as a driver. So at the end of 2013, I decided to like kind of retire the Civic and start driving this more regularly, and I just jumped both feet in. Like, went into Beamer Challenge, like Buttonwillow, January, and I did the whole season. And it was just like I did a 2-day event, and I had a blast. Like, shaving like tenths off my time every time I go on track, and like figuring the car out.
That's awesome.
I put this thing in the dirt a lot. It took
Good.
me,
Oh, you pushed yourself,
yeah. So it definitely was a steep learning curve, but it was all worth it in the end. You know, like I enjoyed developing more as a driver with a rear-wheel drive over the Civic.
So tell us a little bit about the front end. It's got a lot of little white marks. I mean,
Yeah.
track the car. You're not lying.
You know what? A lot of people comment on that, and they're like, "Oh, that looks kind of cool, like that patina." I don't know. It's kind of an eyesore to me, but a lot of this came. I think I did a Targa Trophy event about 5 years ago, and it was me and just a bunch of homies, and we all went out, and there was just like nothing but rocks all over Angeli's Crest. So we were just, you know, at a decent speed, following each other closely, and it just like pitted the hell out of my car. So yeah, I think the idea one day is to just get like a new bumper for it, some new moldings for it, and kind of just give it a nice little cleanup on the outside, repaint the hood, repaint the bumper, new headlight lenses. But it's mechanically, it's where I want it, so I'm happy with it so far.
Okay. So you like the way it is. And tell us about your suspension.
So the suspension, I mean, the main point of suspension would be like the coilovers, right? So I had begged my bosses that I bought to make a multi-pro R2 coilover for the E46 M3. I was running ground controls on it for quite a while, single adjustables, double adjustables, and finally convinced the bosses over there to make the coilover, and we did development on this car, obviously. And so it's got a double adjustable monotube design coilover on there. I messed around with spring rates, but I kind of went with what I had started with on the ground controls. So 600-pound front spring, 700-pound rear spring.
Okay.
pretty moderate street setup, track setup.
Yeah.
A lot of guys run that for the E46 M3, so I figured it was a good starting point and an apples to apples comparison from the Coney shock to the iBox shock. And our guys hit the nail right on the head with these things, man. These coilovers are awesome. And besides that, I've paired a lot of it with like ground control hardware. So it's got ground control race camber plates up top on the front. I've got a ground control front sway bar, ground control end links. The back, I've got ground control weight jacks, which allow the spring to articulate with the arm movement. So it's like it's a collar system to move the spring up and down, but it's on a pillow ball and it's on a cone. So whenever the arm moves, the spring is staying nice and flat with the suspension arm.
Oh, that's cool.